So, recently this happened, and apparently it happened on the 28th of February, and the media only latched onto it recently. And I have to say, this came as a bit of a shock to me. I'm not really the greatest fan of the Holiness Dalai Lama, but I generally thought of him in a positive way. He always stood up against China and never gave in. He always speaks about peace, and in general, Buddhism is seen in a more positive light. The Dalai Lama has formally apologized to the family of the kid, and the media has had a field day with this situation. And me, being a commentary expert, wanted to take my fair share of views. Okay, so I didn't know if I should make a video on this topic, but then I saw another video of like the boy and his mom. I'm not gonna show the video cause the face of the boy isn't blurred and I don't really want to promote it. And in the video, they basically said that it was a great experience being in the presence of the holiness, and you get it. Even they didn't think it was weird. In the original video, you can see the boy coming up and asking for a hug from the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama brings the boy near him, hugs him, kisses him on the lips, and then asks the boy to suck his tongue. And I'm not defending the Dalai Lama, but I know there are a lot of different opinions on this matter. His supporters or followers defend him citing cultural differences. Other people think it's borderline creepy, and just another example of old people in power abusing said power. And I think in this situation it is very important to see both sides, as a lot of YouTubers I watch, like Most Critical and Murha, basically wrote off the whole incident as being creepy, dismissing the fact that there really haven't been any other such cases in the past, and also not looking at the cultural impact of their stance. While the followers of Dalai Lama are, let's say, borderline crazy and will defend him no matter what he does. The main arguments used in the defense of the Dalai Lama were that he was being playful and it was a cultural thing. And yeah, the Dalai Lama is a playful guy. You can see that from his interviews and past interactions. The kissing thing is cultural, and he has done this kind of thing before, but using culture as an excuse is not the way to see things here. Many of the cultural things we did or used to have been somewhat creepy and wrong in today's context. Like I know in a certain country's culture, the older people examine the balls of young boys to check how healthy they are. Now, if an uncle tries to do that, you wouldn't just give it a pass saying it's to keep the culture alive. We're not living in the 1940s. Old cultures die all the time and new ones replace them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an attack on your being or identity. There are still a lot of beautiful Tibetan culture, and attacking an aspect of it doesn't mean the whole reason is getting attacked. And I think the Dalai Lama really handled the situation in a great way. He did only apologize when he needed to, but that's still better than other religious leaders, I would say. This sets an example that even people like the Dalai Lama are open to scrutiny and can correct their mistakes. The Dalai Lama is an international figure, and the things he does is followed by millions around the world. And by him apologizing, whether to escape backlash or not, says that this type of behavior is not acceptable and is a great example to lead by. And looking at the other side, where the Dalai Lama is just demonized, and the argument of all people in power being creepy and abusive. And while there are a lot of bad examples in this space, I did not find much evidence to suspect that the Dalai Lama had any malice. What he did was wrong, but I can say fairly confidently that he didn't have any kind of malice. There really aren't any past indicators to suggest otherwise. Like, I found this article highlighting his mistakes that came out just as the news broke. First is, okay, the recent one, let's skip this. The Dalai Lama said, should a woman succeed him, she should be more attractive. Yeah, this one's bad. I don't know what he was thinking. He is an older guy and you can't expect him to be PC all the time. But I guess he's implying that men who are unattractive can become attractive through hard work, and women need to be attractive by default to succeed. While being attractive is a plus for both genders, women have been sexualized far more than men throughout history. While the times are changing and society is progressing towards equality, it is still hard to uproot that mentality outright. All I can say is hope the Dalai Lama gets more informed on these matters. The Dalai Lama also commented on then US President Donald Trump and says he lacks moral principle. Why is this on the list? Europe belongs to the Europeans. And while this is xenophobic, the latter statement really conveys the message he's trying to say. Receive them, help them, educate them, but ultimately they should develop their own country. And I think this might come from a point of sorrow, as the Dalai Lama isn't allowed to enter his own country. The Dalai Lama is a refuge at this point. Seeing the CCP trying to control his reason, get rid of his influence, and the violence that happened because of it must be hard. Still, the statement is a bit ignorant. Some countries literally do not care for their own people. In some countries, their citizens fear for their own life. So overall, misinformed again. The Dalai Lama said India and Pakistan would have remained united had Mahatma Gandhi's wish to see Muhammad Ali Jinnah as the first Prime Minister of India come true. And I feel like I'm saying this again, but this is just being misinformed again. As the Dalai Lama is living in India and this topic is sensitive for them, I can see how this statement caused trouble. And it is easy to see how this happened, as history remembers Muhammad Ali Jinnah as a power-hungry Muslim extremist. And a lot of people who know a little bit about the partition say that the partition could have been solved if only Jinnah became the Prime Minister. But it's actually a lot more complex than that. Sensible parties on both sides wanted to avoid partition as much as possible because they knew a lot of lives would be lost if it went through. According to reports, Gandhi personally met up with Jinnah to offer him the post and resolve their differences. But extremist party threatened war if the partition didn't go through. In hindsight, we know how bad the partition was. But if it didn't happen, then India and Pakistan could have still been at war. So it's hard to say what is right. Actually, what the Dalai Lama could have said is that it was the fault of the British. And even expert would have been like, he's not wrong. Because the whole Muslim versus Hindu thing happened because of the British anyway. Anyways, I just wanted to say that the Dalai Lama has made mistakes. He is not informed in all things, but his words are more important, I guess, because he is in the position that he is. And the argument of if a regular guy did that, then he would have been sent to jail. Yeah, it would be a problem. But if a regular guy in Tibet did it, maybe not so. Still not a defense though. In a perfect world where there were no pedophiles or predators, and everyone, including children, knew what consent and power dynamics were, then maybe. But we, unfortunately, ended up in the bad timeline. And the last thing I want to say is the people who follow the Dalai Lama need to chill, fully expecting this video to get some backlash just for criticizing His Holiness. But his followers need to know that the Western society isn't trying to whitewash your culture, but some culture is just weird. It isn't a ploy by China to make him look bad. If you're still angry even after watching the whole video, maybe you're not just supporting Buddhism and the Dalai Lama. Maybe the problem is something else.